All right, everyone, time to weigh in on David Horowitz. Now, I should have weighed in on this yesterday, but I already had a full docket. In fact, I had a few extra videos. I had to cover Hawaii because, wanted to warn in case any of my subs are down there. Get the extra gallon of water, maybe the Bud Light, or as I said, or whatever. David Horowitz, who has worked with, he's one of the funders of Jihad Watch, although he's not part of the organization. You'll remember they got deplatformed by Patreon, I think last week. Horowitz has now had his site, which is separate from it. It's not like a parent company or anything. They've been deplatformed as well by their payment processors. So now it's basically like, hey, you can mail us money. I don't know if he doesn't have crypto set up, people need to relay to him. Just get a crypto wallet, use Exodus, and put those out there. It's a good method. I'm using them now. It's like, even for someone like me, I'm not part of any activist network, I'm not part of any organized group, and I don't do on-the-ground journalism. I don't worry about getting deplatformed. But just in case, we're looking at, Gab gets attacked by Pinterest. Like, Pinterest is now joining the struggle against bigotry or whatever the fuck they're going to label it next. Whatever newspeak term they're going to give censorship next. And it's like, it's so obviously being coordinated. Now Horowitz. What is Horowitz? Let's think of what he is. He's a conservative, and I mean a garden variety conservative. He's also a Zionist. He is a very pro-Israeli individual. He actually has ties to another group. Now, I'll tell a little backstory here. Some years ago, it came to the attention of a lot of people on through 4chan mainly, that there was a new sort of effort being launched to document like people who were anti-Semitic and sort of like, post publicly about them and stuff, called the Canary Project. Now, at the time I weighed in on, I'm like, this could be seen almost as illegal in some ways. It could be a problem. The Canary Project has ties to Horowitz too. Like he shares it out. I think he's got literal ties to it, probably has funded it. And he's getting called hateful by the SPLC. So he literally is partnered with groups that kind of operate in the same NGO style capacity, and yet he's getting called hateful. This is ripe for a lawsuit. When the SPLC, which he's saying is involved here, is approaching credit services or approaching some fiscal site and saying a person should not be able to use your site because they are being hateful. Several things are the case. Number one, the SPLC should have absolute proof that that's objectively true, or it risks a lawsuit. And number two, if a lawsuit does erupt, it could be problematic, and I'll tell you why. It's just like with that Islamic author there that has his own website that exposes both instances of Islamophobia and Islamofascism. He got labeled in a book by the SPLC as being an Islamophobe, being an evil bigot. He sued, and he sued successfully. They had to settle that case not that many months ago for millions of dollars for defaming him. They had to apologize and pay him a lot of money. They settled out of court. He should have just kept going and taken him for a fiscal ride. He would have won, because in these cases where the payment processor is what's being targeted, because of some NGO raising a stink, it becomes easy to prove, yes, indeed, there was fiscal harm done. Normally, it's like with that case that Sargon, I think, is still embroiled with. The other YouTuber that he supposedly stole material from has to prove that it caused significant detriment to income. That, Sargon posting my video up, basically, it robbed me of large amounts of money, of the amount that I'm asking for. Probably if you win the case, in that case, you get like $1,000 tops. It'd be pennies, basically. Why? It has nothing to do with fundraising. It's simply a video. It's one component of the stuff that you market and make money off of. I have a feeling it's nowhere near the I believe, 6-figure total that she has in mind. Probably won't even win the case. In this case, though, if Horowitz can show, yes, indeed, the SPLC pressured these groups, it is a mark of defamation. The SPLC has publicly listed him as a bigoted individual, and that in turn has led to a situation where even though he sort of does SPLC-style stuff from the Jewish perspective, he has been prevented from accessing his funds. I think that would be a successful legal case, because it's defamatory. If he can show, hey, the SPLC is XY claiming this, it's caused financial detriment, that much is fairly clear. Meanwhile, I believe he was also kicked off of Twitter briefly. I think he was frozen on there for some tweets that he made. I don't even support, by the way, I'll say this, the Canary Project. I think that in turn, that potentially too as defamation. I'm looking and I'm seeing here the faces of people and the identities of people. It's almost a little bit like doxing, that supposedly are anti-Semitic in some way. How can the Canary Project prove that that's the case? Are there going to be sources actually listed that prove beyond any doubt that this isn't a defamatory statement? This sort of particular activity, I think, is rather lowbrow. I think is rather regrettable when it happens. It's like even when Holt got doxxed, I'm like, I don't support that either. Here's a person who has defamed and turned me on multiple occasions. It's still wrong. It's not helping anybody. It just makes everything online more toxic. But I think these NGOs, it's sad that an NGO that can defame someone and get them fucked around by Patreon, by their Visa card, or whatever processor they're using for their website, it's very sad that those same groups are considered trustworthy, even if sometimes they are totally wrong, by big tech to be able to flag, remove, and give advice on the sum of content on these sites. I think that that's a dangerous precedent. I don't think they should have a seat at the table, because some of these groups are blatantly partisan in nature. If you look at the Twitter page of the SPLC, it is a partisan site. It's not just an activist front. It's not just an NGO in the standard sense. It is also a political movement, a blatantly political movement. Most of the statements it makes are not objective. They're opinionated. The problem is that you can't simply say, well, my opinion is this person is hateful. I've got a seat at the table on all of these sites where they are making their money. I think I am going to label them publicly as bigoted, therefore they get fucked. You shouldn't be able to do that, and it's probably illegal already under existing US law to do so anyway. It rises to the level, in some of these cases, like the case with InfoWars and a few others, possibly Horowitz, Twitter's gone after him too, it rises to the level of a form of harassment. It's like, what's his name there? He works with InfoWars. David something. I don't know. I don't know everyone on the InfoWars team. Just fucking sue me. I'm not a super fan of Alex Jones' content. I prefer Prison Planet, honestly. Looking at that, we're looking at people who are suffering from, mass email spam from YouTube. In his case, I think is Schroyer there. He gets a bunch of email spam, basically. Well, this stuff on YouTube goes. That stuff on YouTube goes. It's like, he hasn't even been told specifically what broke the rules, and he's getting apparently very, very large numbers of bot emails, indicating he is suffering from brigading. That's basically what it boils down to. Those are harassment campaigns. Now, we used to understand this. It used to be, generally, it wasn't even partisan. It used to be in the old days, it was just a group of trolls getting their jollies off. They're like, hey, this user has a lot of people, a big audience. We're going to attack them. They're going to try to get them deplatformed, or at least try to get them angry. Even if they don't get deplatformed, they'll get angry, they'll make a tearful response. It'll be funny. It was for the lulz. Now it's for mainly political and fiscal purposes. As the internet has matured and grown more immature in some ways as the result, people getting more fragile, they can't stand being confronted with anything outside of their echo chamber, it's becoming more and more common for people to make large sums of money. Oh, well, we can't let anyone do that. Apparently, in the case of David Horowitz, the problem is that he was funding another group that in turn got deplatformed. So basically, if you're donating on Patreon or via some other method to a person that isn't liked by an NGO, through the 5 degrees of Hitler or whatever the hell game they're trying to play, you might get deplatformed too. Well, that's most of the content creators in the whole fucking internet. That's most of the smaller websites on the internet. Can you say monopolistic? Can you say this should be subject to antitrust laws in the most literal sense under existing U.S. law? Some people act as though it's still a free market. Yes, it's totally coincidental that all of these sites dogpile the same individual in a 48-hour period, regardless of their political affiliations. This is normal. This is the way the internet's supposed to work, they say. No, it's not. It's not the way it has worked. It doesn't need to work that way. The internet was already safe, already stable, and already fine. The idea, the moral panic idea early on, like 10 years ago, was, hey, your kid will use the internet, give strangers their identity, and get spirited away. Now the moral panic is if your kid doesn't give their identity away, they might say Nazi things under a cloak of anonymity and turn into a skinhead. How far we have come, and not in the right direction, I think. Now you've got the Democrats circulated that moron memo there that they had about everyone. The anonymity online is a problem. We need to get rid of it. Everyone should have a unique ID tied to their identity. and stupid shit like that. It's like the least helpful that you could possibly be. Basically, the SPLC should be seen as engaging in harassment, possibly to a criminal level, with regards to some of these individuals. And again, you don't have to agree with the individuals. Like, I'm looking at Horowitz's work, I'm like, I don't really agree with a lot of it. But he shouldn't be deplatformed. He should be able to make his money. His fans choose to go to his content. His fans choose to fund him on one platform or another. Nobody is being compelled to give him money or to give him attention, to share any of his material or patronize him in any way. The same goes for literally everybody else online. And so the internet's already fine. The way it works, the free market has already fixed it. If you don't like it, fucking turn it off. People need to grow a pair and mature a little bit. That's about all. Peace out.